What's up, everybody? John Albert here. Today we are going to do a major god tier list after the patch, which released, I think, on the 10th. Yeah, so released 2 days ago. So I'm going to try to do my best to do a really good tier list. This is probably going to be so inaccurate. I don't have enough games with the new patch since it's only been out for 2 days. So there's a lot of kind of crazy moving parts right now. Raw is skyrocketing on the win rate. All kinds of weird things happening. But I do have the most played games overall in the whole game, I believe. So I think my opinion does matter a little bit. You know, that's what I would say at least. All right, so let's start. I have it kind of lined up going from Greeks all the way down to Atlanteans, kind of how it's set up in the game right here. Let's turn off my music right here so I don't have double music playing real quick. Okay, let's start off with Zeus. Zeus right now, I think, is in kind of a weird spot. I don't think he's that strong. I think he's very good late game. The problem is he can be abused pretty easily. I have my most played games with Zeus. I think he is still pretty good. Like in my previous tier list, I put him at S tier, but that was very, very early, and that was during the beta. He's nowhere near S tier in my opinion anymore. Especially with all the nerfs to his favor gathering, which was the main reason why Zeus was super strong, was that he could kind of abuse just spamming, lightning storm, spamming plenty volts, all that kind of shenanigans. I don't think Zeus is that good. I would actually probably put him slightly below average, if not. I don't think he's the worst god in the game, but I don't think he's very good right now. So I'm going to put him in C tier. I'm putting Zeus in C tier. I love to play him, but I think just right now he can be abused in many different areas. But it is what it is. John has the most wins in all of AOM. Of course, his opinion matters. Okay, so now we got Poseidon. So Poseidon, I would easily say in the last patch, he was S tier, but they recently just nerfed. They just nerfed, what's it called? Spirited Charge. But that's only the Centaur. Centaur are now only get plus 5% speed with Spirited Charge instead of the plus 10%, but his cavalry still get plus 10%. So I still think Poseidon's actually pretty damn good. I actually think mobility is still king in this game, mobility and aggression. So I do think Poseidon is still very strong. I'm going to put him in A tier. All right, up next we got Hades. Hades just received a pretty big nerf as well, but I don't think it hurts him that much. They reduced Achilles' speed as well as Atalanta, which was for actually Poseidon, but it nerfed basically the heroes for the classical age for the Greeks other than Zeus's. But he got nerfed in that his talks are now like shooting a lot slower or whatever. I think it went from 1.1 or 1.2 what's it called, shots or volleys per second or something to 1.1. So he shoots a little bit less, but his archers are still very devastating. Once you get like kind of a death ball of talks, they're super strong. I actually think Hades might. This is very like map dependent, I would say. So like on maps like Alfheim, where it's like very kind of close quarters, I think Hades is really good because you can't kind of get a surround on him. But I think on really open maps like Megalopolis and like a bunch of other maps, Poseidon is better. So I think this is really kind of map dependent. And I think right now in the ladder, there's more open maps and they're all like kind of closed off maps. So I think Poseidon is probably better than Hades, but just by a little bit. I think both these gods are pretty damn good. I do think both of them are superior to Zeus right now. I just think cavalry, you get the mobility throughout the whole game. And then Hades gets that kind of death ball. Infantry for Zeus just doesn't really help that much. I think it's just kind of like, they're not even that good, man, to be honest. You're kind of just constantly chasing. So that's why I think Zeus is kind of the worst of the Greek gods. This is my tier list for the Greeks so far. All right, up next we got Ra. So Ra is a really weird one. I've been saying for the longest time he's the worst god in the game. And I still think he is kind of the worst god in the game. But however, they changed a couple things. They buffed Locust, so I think Locust is actually pretty good now. And the reason why he's skyrocketing on the win rate, in my opinion, is because of the slings. The slingers right now in the game are absolutely broken with divine damage. Magic recently just did a video on it, talking about how they literally can shred through like siege towers and like elephants and stuff like that. I think that's going to be like kind of patched out. I think one divine damage for slingers is really stupid. Plus slings in the sun. So you get like a combination of electrum bullets and slings of the sun. You get these really OP slingers. So I think all of Egyptian, or specifically Ra and Set, are going to skyrocket because of the divine damage tech. But my question is like, why would you go raw when you just could go set and probably pull off the slinger abuse better? Um, so because of this recent buff with the slingers and the locusts, I don't think I can put him on the worst god anymore. I think I might have to put him like I'll put him on like B tier. He's like in the middle, I guess. But I don't like the current state of Raw at all. I think I don't want Raw to become like better just because of one abusable unit and like one kind of oversight. So hopefully they'll give him like other tools in his tool belt rather than just abusing one unit. Okay, up next we got Isis. So Isis does not, I believe, get access to Electrum Bullet. Is that correct? Oh, I can move my camera. No problem. Okay, as I was saying, Isis doesn't get access to Electrum bullets, so I think Isis right now is probably the worst of the Egyptian, just because right now those slingers are just ridiculous. Like you need slingers in your army, you just can devastate everybody. And so I think right now, as the game stands, this might be shocking to you because of the Ancestors Eclipse nerf. So the Ancestors are now a lot slower. They do less damage to heroes. I think they generally do less damage, and the Thoth nerf with meteors. So meteors do a lot less damage. I think it went from 850 crush to like 580. I think that's correct. Yeah, that is correct. My memory's pretty good with that, I think. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. So Isis got a huge nerf in the most recent patch. I think Isis might be the worst god in the game. I haven't seen any Isis players on the ladder. I think Isis got hit really hard with this patch, and I don't think there might be one worse god. There might be one. Let's put Isis. Let's hold off there. Let's pull off. I'm gonna put Isis at the bottom of C. There's one god I think that's slightly worse than Isis. You guys can probably guess what it is, but we'll get to it. Next we got Set. I think Set also kind of got nerfed in some areas because now Thoth isn't nearly as strong. And also Valley of the Kings I think got nerfed as well, right? Where you don't get as many free units. I think Set is better than Raw, but not by much because of the Thoth nerf. Thoth nerf. It's a tongue twister. Yeah, I think Set is better. You can just get cheaper slingers. Like you can basically do whatever Raw does, but better with the slinger abuse, and that's kind of the main way that people are using the meta right now. But I don't know, man. I think the animals right now are still really strong with Set. They're kind of pain in the ass, and like especially on like Marsh Set is such a pain in the ass to deal with. I can't stand Set. I still can't stand Set, even with the nerfs. I think Egyptian units probably just should be buffed a little bit, and I think they're heading in that direction. It's just their god power is just way too overtuned. Like Meteor and Ancestors Eclipse, all that stuff was way too overtuned. But yeah, so I think Set ahead of Raw here is where I'd put it, but below the Greeks. Okay, up next is Thor. So I've been playing with Thor. I think Thor is very, very strong. I just kind of been sucking recently, so I kind of blame myself. I need to get better. I've been losing a lot of games with Thor, but I know I can improve. I think it's kind of a skill issue. It's not a god issue. I think Thor is still very dominant. He can do a lot of crazy things. He obviously can still do that kind of favor abuse thing where he gets that extra Hammer of the Gods upgrade. If you go to his tech tree, you can still get this. All you have to do is like instead of killing the hurtables, which is what they nerfed, you can't like get favor anymore for killing hurtables, or at least you can't smack it anymore like numerous times. All you can do is hit it once. So you either can kill 5 goats to get the 5 favor, or you can kill 5 chickens. I usually just like to kill the 5 chickens and then just go like eat the chickens after. Like it might decay a little bit, but it doesn't really matter that much. To me, it's way worth it to get this upgrade still early, so you get that extra dwarf. But yeah, basically Thor, if you do this specific build, I think Soup developed it. I'm not sure if he was like original developer of the build order, but you basically can get 4 free villagers right off the bat, which is super strong. You get the whole first line of tech here. So that's really, really good. Thor also basically gets cheaper dwarves. We can research armory upgrades in any age, and this is actually a really, really big one because what people realize too, Soup specifically and a couple other players, is that you can get the Burning Pitch upgrade. Right here, you can get the Burning Pitch upgrade, which is usually a Mythic Age upgrade. It's really expensive. It's 500 wood, 300 gold. However, this thing with Throwing Axemen absolutely destroys buildings. It like their paper. Like it literally just town centers, like everything just explodes if you get a death ball of Throwing Axemen. So this is a really, really good upgrade to grab for Thor, especially if you're not even Mythic Age, because it kind of just like surprises your opponent. They're like, how did my town center and how did my fortress blow up from literally just Axemen? And that's because throwing Axemen do hack damage, not pierce damage. So this stacks insanely well with the throwing Axemen. So I think Thor right now, I do think Thor is actually S tier. I think Thor right now is S tier god. Really, really strong. He's fun to play as. You can kind of do timing attacks with flaming weapons. You can do the cheese, like I said, with the throwing axemen. One thing I do think that sucks with Thor is that I think Balder is really weak right now. Like, I think Rag is really bad. I think you want to go tier like 95% of the time. Balder, because you don't get access to 20 extra pop or 20 extra villagers like in the original game. It just doesn't really feel that impactful. And also because you get so much more population space in this game. So like that like huge army kind of just whittles down really quickly because your opponent also has a huge army. So I don't know. That's where I think I'd put Thor. But he's not perfect. I think there's actually a better god. And that's what you guys are gonna be shocked by this, but there's gonna be a couple S tier gods here. I'm putting Odin ahead of Thor. I think Odin is very, very strong in many different ways, and there's a couple big reasons for that. Let me show you guys. So we got Odin over here. Gathers and Dwarves hunt 10% faster. That's very, very good, especially because most of the maps in this game are very high hunt. This is very strong. Great Hall units generate plus 25% favor in battle. That's really, really good. I think they changed this. This used to be like 25 HP or something. I think that was actually changed. This is great as well. Human units and heroes regenerate 0.5 hit points. 2 Ravens scouts. Obviously, you know about the scouts are really good. He gets this tech right here. Spires, Berserks move and attack faster as they lose hit points. This is actually a really good tech. Pretty underrated. And then we got... I think the main thing with Odin is he's so good at just raiding with his Great Hall units. His raiding cavalry is such a pain to deal with, and I think, like I said, mobility is king. And in my opinion, I think like Odin is kind of just like a better Poseidon in many ways. Like he can just constantly raid you and be such a pain in the ass. So he also gets access to some of the greatest techs in the game through Heimdall, and that's this tech right here, Vigthua. So hard to pronounce, but basically increases the speed of which your units train. Specifically, it also adds that to villagers and researching the next age. So this is a really, really good tech. Most people like to go through Freyr because you get access to Thundering Hooves. But I just think his minor gods right here are super strong. Like you can go for a boom kind of game or you can go for a really aggro game. And obviously we have access to Great Hunt as well. So he can constantly keep spamming this out, getting free hunt. So I think Odin is crazy, crazy, crazy strong. Crazy, crazy, crazy strong. So I think I'm going to put Odin in S tier. It's kind of debatable, honestly. Like, maybe Thor is ahead of Odin, but in my, like, the main god that I think is the best in the game right now is actually Loki. So we talked about Thor. I think all the Norse gods right now are in such a good spot. They didn't get really hit with, like, any major nerfs compared to Greeks. I do think Norse takes skill to pull off, but I think they have the most potential and are very, very good. At least these three Norse. These three Norse gods. So Loki is very strong for a couple big reasons. Obviously, he gets access to the myth unit spawns, which is really good. But this is the big one right here that a lot of people overlook. 25% counter damage. So whatever unit you have, especially in Norse Wars, this is so devastating because what happens is in Norse Wars, a lot of times it comes down to just who has more throwing axemen. Throwing axemen are super, super strong. And he gets counter damage against other throwing axemen because they're technically infantry. So his throwing axemen are crazy good. This is also a very overlooked buff as well. 10% faster. Buildings are constructed 10% faster. That's really good. Ox carts are 50% cheaper. That's pretty good. This used to be free. That was a little bit too strong. So they made it 50% cheaper. So he got nerfed a little bit. But he still has such amazing... Like, he's such a well-rounded god. He can boom. He can be super aggro. He just has all the tools in his tool belt to be super successful. He gets Spy, which is an amazing archaic age god power. You basically can get all the information you need on what your opponent's going to make. You can either put it on an early villager, like early villager on hunt, so you can see where they're going to hunt, or you can put it on their gold mine, see they're going to get gold. In my opinion, the best way to use it is probably to use it on their army, and then you can kind of like not pick off that unit and just always see where their army is, which I think is very, very helpful to kind of go raid them wherever their army isn't. And then also you can just see how much army they have to kind of predict what they're doing, like if they're going to go to the next age or if your army can beat their army, stuff like that. So I think Spy is very, very strong. You also get this really cool tech called Eyes in the Forest. Loki causes nearby units of Mother Nature, such as trees, animals, to temporarily grant you vision. This is crazy good. It's kind of a confusing what this means, but basically like random, I don't know if it's random, but like you can see line of sight of just like random trees and like, specifically if you put a house, I know if you put like a house next to a tree line, you can basically see like everything around that tree line. It gives you insane vision. So I feel like Loki is just always kind of one step ahead of where he needs to be, basically. He's always in the right spot at the right time, compared to these other gods, which may be caught like kind of flat-footed. Like I said before, he also has access to these two techs, which are insanely good. This is more of a booming god, I think, now, Heimdall. Heimdall can be, you know, what's crazy about Heimdall is he can be really aggro as well with the Einuyar, because it's almost like a mini flaming weapons, this guy. It gives you a temporarily damage and speed boost, so that's really, really strong. And so these two techs, like I said, same thing with Odin, very, very strong. I think Loki is the best god in the game right now. I'm going to say it. I think Loki is the best god in the game. I had so much fun playing with him, and I got like decent success without having like any experience. All I did was just spam units, and I just found myself winning games. So I'm definitely going to try to learn Loki more, like in a more in-depth way. I think his economy is also very, very strong. He's just a great god. He's a great god. So I think I'm going to put Loki in S tier. At the very tippy top of S tier. This is so biased. Just came in here. I can already tell. How? Thanks for the follow, Dick Carlson. Okay. Now the funny part is, I think Freyr is the worst god in the game. I think Freyr is the worst god in the game. For a couple reasons. I think Freyr can be good, but he is so complicated and like hard to pull off where it's so punishing. And yeah, he can have potential, but if you make like any small mistake, it's so unforgiving. While these other gods, you can make mistakes and still find your way to win games. So I just think he's just not good, and I think the win rates, yeah, the win rates are kind of reflecting that. He's just not good. Even at any level, like let's check 1300. Right now, this I wouldn't completely trust the AOM stats because the patch just released 2 days ago. So this is fluctuating like crazy. This is based off of literally like only 2 days of games being played. So it's not, yeah, 1,120 games. That's just not enough games. So we don't, like, I wouldn't completely trust this, but it kind of tells a slight story. And you can just kind of see Freyr is in a bad spot. You can even see like Isis got hit really hard, not doing super hot. I don't really necessarily think Set is like that low. So like it kind of pick and choose what you want to go with, what you believe or whatever. But I think Freyr is super hard to play. I have a very hard time playing it. Anecdotally, I played as him and I still struggled. Stats also speak for it. I think he's not very good. So I don't know. I think I'm kind of confused on why they did some kind of weird nerf. I forget what it was exactly. They nerfed something. I forget what it was. It was a pretty big nerf with Freyr. I don't think things should take 150% longer to research. I think it should just be like 100%. But maybe that'll make him too broken. I don't know. I just feel like whenever I play Freyr, I never have enough buildings. It's like an absolute pain. You need to spam out like so many buildings to get all your text through, and then just by the time you do that, your opponent just has a way bigger army and you just die. It doesn't matter if you have 3 more armory upgrades than your opponent when his army is like 5 times bigger. Like, it's just, I can't figure them out. I really can't. And sure, some of these like genius like super high level top 10 players might be able to figure out Freyr, but like for the vast majority of players, I really think Freyr is very, very hard to pull off. Asgardian Bastion is it's so bad in the classical age. It takes forever to get built. It nearly always gets denied. Like almost every single game I played, and also when I played against Freyr, like I'm always able to deny this basically, unless they use it later. And so you're kind of just out of a classical age god power until later on in the game. I do think Tempest is really, really good. So these are the couple things where I think Freyr makes him like not as bad. I think Tempest is kind of insane. I think Tempest is very, very good. Same with the Rock Giant. So like these are really good. But I think the only way to play Freyr optimally is to go through Freya. You have to go through Freya. You need to be aggro a little bit to give yourself some breathing room. I just think right now Ullr is really, really bad. Like it's super hard to make it work. I might be wrong on this. This might be a bad take, but that's my belief. I really want to be able to play Freyr because I think he's really cool. Like I love this God Power Inferno. Like I love all the new units. Rock Giant's probably my favorite new unit in the game or whatever. So I don't know. All right, let's move on. I think I've talked about Freyr enough, but I think he's the worst god in the game. All right, up next we got Kronos. Kronos. Kronos is really good at countering specific gods that like to boom and like be greedy early. Specifically talking about Thor. Like I think Kronos is an amazing counter pick to Thor. Who else kind of gets greedy? Like maybe Freyr? I don't know. I'm trying to think. I think Kronos is probably A tier. I like Kronos. Kronos is pretty good. Actually, I don't know, man. I just haven't played enough games. I'm not sure how hard the chaos hit really hurts Kronos. I'm not super comfortable placing Kronos anywhere, so I'm just probably gonna put him in B tier, like right in the middle. I don't really have much to say about Kronos. I haven't gone against him much, and I haven't played him at all yet in this patch, so I don't really want to just be talking out of my ass completely with this. So I'm gonna put Kronos probably just in B tier. I don't really have much to say about him. I don't really have much to say about him. Thanks for the follow, amazing. Going back to Loki, can you explain what counter damage is? Sure. So what counter damage means, whenever you click on a unit, it tells you a multiplier, right? So if you have like a Herdman, it will say, okay, it has a 4 times multiplier against cavalry, right? So take that 4 times multiplier and then add 25% basically. So that Herdman now is doing 25% more damage to Herdman or to cavalry. So whatever unit you have that counters a specific unit, if it's countering it, it gets that buff, which is super, super strong. Especially like I said in Norse Wars, because a lot of times in Norse Wars it comes down to just throwing axeman spam, and throwing axeman is technically an infantry, so they counter each other. So you get that plus 25% counter damage against other throwing axemen. So very strong buff there. Hopefully that cleared it up for you. Okay. Gaia. I think Gaia is very strong. I think she got nerfed a little bit. Like she got nerfed a lot actually with the recent patch, especially because people were abusing straight up bugs like what's it called, Poseidon's Secret. That was such a pain in the ass to deal with, where you get basically free Contarius when it's supposed to be like an expensive unit. I think Gaia is super good with Oceanus, but Oceanus also got hit a little bit because Caladria are a lot weaker now, so Caladria die, like they die super easily now compared to before. Like I think their health went down from like 140 to like 80 or something. So I still think Gaia is very strong. I'm gonna put Gaia in A tier. Gaia is pretty strong. Like I said, I haven't played too many games, so I'm not super familiar with all of Atlantean right now after the patch. They definitely got hit with a couple different different rough nerfs, so they're definitely weaker, but I don't think by much. Finally, we got Ornos. I think Ornos, if you abuse the sky passages correctly, I think Ornos is probably the best Atlantean. I think I'd put Ornos right behind Hades. I think Ornos right now has so much potential with the sky passages. I was so wrong about him when a game first came out. But now that people are figuring out how to use sky passages more like optimally, you basically can save time with walking time. So there's these really good 2 town center builds where you don't have to walk at all. It's just you send 1 villager, build a sky passage next to a town center, and boom, then you build up the town center because all your villagers are able to teleport over. So that's really good. You then can use it to kind of have safe hunt everywhere. And then later on the game, as it goes on to like heroic and mythic age, you can just always be in the right spot at the right time. And oh my goodness, this is so frustrating to go against. I can't stand going against Ornos late game when he just keeps teleporting around the map. Your army is just always playing catch up. It's so annoying. So I think he's very, very good. He gets this buff too, where he gets plus 25% favorite full on a sight, which is really good. So he can keep spamming out those Satyr. Satyr are super strong, especially like I said, if you have that good garrison micro, you can garrison in and out of the sky passages with Satyr, and they absolutely melt like everything. Super strong. So his focus, vision, mobility, yep, super mobile. Can make good Contarius with Poseidon's secret. So he's very well rounded. Chaos is still very strong. I don't think it's as strong as before, but it's still very, very good. So I think Ornos is very strong. He's definitely an A tier god in my opinion, and he has obviously access to this, just where you get plus 10% speed for your infantry. So he's very mobile. They also buffed the Targaryen Gate recently, so that's gonna help him as well. So I think I'm actually really comfortable with putting Ornos in A tier. He might even be higher than A tier. Like he's a pain in the ass to deal with. All right, so this is my tier list. Chat, you guys have any thoughts on this? How wrong is this? I'm gonna do a poll. How is Thor S tier after today's performance? Because it's a skill issue, not a god issue. Hades looks like, honestly, out of all the profile pictures, Hades looks the coolest. Hades looks like a Giga Chad, bro. He's just sitting on his throne. With his Cerberus dogs in the background. You put Kronos higher? Gaia has the OP horse spam though. They just nerfed the Poseidon Secret, and Ornos can do the same thing. I think I'm happy with this. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm pretty happy with this. I think Norse dominates right now, other than Freyr. I think I'm happy with this. All right. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe if you're on YouTube, and if you're on the Twitch, make sure to follow. I appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.